The difference between heritage and native Spanish speakers in marketing with Lunasol Media. Many times, as marketers, we're tasked with 3 language choices when creating content for Latino audiences. These choices are generally Spanish, English, or bilingual content. However, that doesn't take into account the question of a native Spanish speaker versus a heritage Spanish speaker. While these 2 terms are used interchangeably, they are not the same thing. A native Spanish speaker is an individual who has grown up in a Spanish-speaking country, where the language is not just a means of communication, but a part of their daily life. Native speakers have been immersed in the Spanish language from a young age, surrounded by its nuances in various contexts, be it at home, school, or within their community. These individuals not only speak Spanish fluently, but have a deeper understanding of its cultural nuances, idioms, and regional variations. On the other hand, while they may have grown up in an environment where Spanish is spoken, a heritage Spanish speaker's exposure to the language is primarily through family and friends. Unlike native speakers, heritage speakers might not have received formal education in Spanish. This leads to potential gaps in their linguistic proficiency. Heritage speakers often have a conversational grasp of the language, but their understanding of formal grammar, complex vocabulary, and regional nuances may be limited. Let's take the example of throwing the house out of the window. The expression, tirar la casa por la ventana, a common Spanish idiom, translates to throwing the house out of the window. Now, while a native Spanish speaker might instantly comprehend the idiom's meaning, which is splurging or going all out on a celebration, a heritage Spanish speaker might interpret it more literally, which doesn't make sense. And so without the formal education that exposes them to idiomatic expressions, a heritage Spanish speaker could perceive the phrase as a puzzling image rather than understanding its intended metaphorical sense. So how does this affect marketers hoping to reach Hispanic consumers? In the realm of Hispanic marketing, recognizing the distinction between native and heritage Spanish speakers is really important. Not understanding the difference can mean losing your intended audience due to non-comprehension of your message. So, let's talk solutions. So, for native Spanish speakers, marketing efforts can leverage the richness of the language, incorporating colloquial expressions and cultural references that resonate with their lived experiences. On the other hand, content aimed at heritage Spanish speakers may benefit from a more inclusive approach, providing additional context and simplifying language without compromising its authenticity. So the question is, how can we do both? So we can find solutions by being creative and looking at synonyms and at idioms. Here's what I mean. Let's go back to our example of splurging or going all out. We can look at 10 other idioms in Spanish that have the same meaning. For example, another popular idiom is darlo todo, which translates to give it your all. This idiom is used to convey the idea of putting in maximum effort or dedication. A few other idioms that mean pretty much the same thing are dejar la piel en el intento, poner toda la carne en el asador, ir a por todas, and jugar todas las cartas. So the clear winner is darlo todo, which is shorter, easier to remember, and a more punchy way of saying the same thing. Now the question is, how do you convey darlo todo in a campaign for both heritage and native speakers to get the message? One idea is to create an ad with a graphical representation of giving it your all, using a runner pushing to the finish line, and incorporate a burst of energy along with the text in Spanish, darlo todo. Likewise, you can convey the essence of darlo todo in a campaign using video, where a voiceover can play a role in conveying the commitment, passion, and dedication associated with this concept, much like the Nike commercials do. Incorporating both visual cues and explanatory elements does a few things here. First, it creates a more inclusive and accessible narrative which resonates with a broader spectrum of the Hispanic audience, both native and heritage speakers. It also fosters a shared understanding of idiomatic expressions while celebrating the diversity within the Hispanic or Spanish-speaking community. In other words, it keeps everyone feeling like they're in the know. And most importantly, you won't lose a portion of your intended audience.
Thanks for watching.